Okay.
Hey, here I am. So,
Yay!
hi,
Welcome, welcome.
everybody.
Thank you for being with us. Lillian or Lily is from a wonderful winery that, to be honest, I swung big asking them to participate because it's a winery that I've known and I've enjoyed for such a long time, and they're quite big, and I thought they would not have time for us and our wine club, but instead Lily said, yes, absolutely. So we're so
Yeah, it's really a pleasure for me, really, to be here with all of you, even if I don't see you and we're very far. But and I can tell you that it's really the first time for me having this kind of tasting because I'm actually the responsible of the hospitality at the winery at Feudi. So for me, I mean, it's common, it's usual to have people, in the winery, drinking together, tasting to drag together, and chatting. And so this is a weird time for us, really. It's a weird time. It's the first time that I'm having a tasting at home right now. So, I think it's the first time that I'm having again a technical tasting. So, thank you. That's it, really.
your home right now is in Salerno, is that
Yes.
correct? So she's in Salerno, which I'll show you in a minute on the map where that is at the kind of end of the Amalfi Coast area. And she works inland a little bit in Avellino, which is where most of the wines that we talk about today are coming from. So I'd like to start this again, just giving kind of overall information of Campania, the region, and then I'll turn it to Lily and she will tell us more about the winery and the wines specifically um, of that area, Irpinia, which she will tell us more about. So I'm going to share my screen. If anyone has questions, feel free to ask them in the chat as we go along. But I'm so excited about today of um, all the different regions I've prepared for and have been excited about and we've done tastings for. This one just made me so excited, emotional. I love this area for so many different reasons. I've been many times. Can't wait to go again. I was supposed to be there again in 2 weeks, but sadly that's not happening. So let's just do kind of an overview. But Campania, so we are talking about southern Italy now. We were in central Italy before, but Campania is the region, the capital of Naples, and Naples is the third most populous city in Italy after Rome and Milan. And Campania is one of the most densely populated regions in the entire country. But it's so unique. You can see here that the region itself is split out into 5 different kind of provinces within it. And Lily's going to talk to us mostly about this area here, Benevento and Avellino, which is historically known as Irpinia and kind of a different area. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about Naples and Salerno area first. But what an interesting place in terms of history. So I will focus more on the winemaking today, but of course, if anyone wants to go visit here, that's what Slice of Tuscany is really for, to plan an amazing trip to all these places. But in terms of winemaking, so there was a history of winemaking here even before the Greeks and Romans. So the native people were already making wines, but the Greeks came in and settled colonies in southern Italy. It was known as Magna Grecia, and Naples, the Bay of Naples around Mount Vesuvius, became a real hub for that community. And then the Romans came in, and it was their playground. It's this word I keep thinking of as I'm talking about Campania, is playground, both for ancient Romans, for the emperors, the wealthy, and for us today, because there's so much diversity in this one little area. You have 200 miles of coastline. You have the islands of Ischia and Capri right here. The city of Naples is here in the bay, Vesuvius, and then this is the Sorrento Peninsula, and this tiny little piece down here is the Amalfi Coast, the world famous Amalfi Coast. So you have Amalfi, Positano, Ravello, all these towns right here. But the wines at the time, Falernum was one of the most popular wines for the Roman emperors, and it came from this area. It was 4 times the price of other wines at the time, which we know because we found price lists at Pompeii. But here you can see Positano, one of my favorite places in the world, where Matt and I got engaged a few years ago, but love vacationing here. But the steep cliffed coastlines that especially this part of the coast is known for, these very steep cliffs. And you can see here we're on the island of Capri. It's not Capri, but it is Capri in Italian. And we're looking out back towards, this is Sorrento, and then Vesuvius would be over here and Naples to our left. But Villa Jovis, which Marianne and Mish know well, who are on this call, they have visited. It was up here, high up on this cliff, and it was the Emperor Tiberius's palace. He spent the last 10 years of his reign on this island because he actually feared his murder if he stayed in Rome. So, you know, imagine from Rome right now, it's an hour-long train ride to get to Naples, and then going across the water to Capri, and then up the hill. Actually, I'm going to go back. So up the hill here to visit the villa, the ruins today you can visit, but it takes 1 hour by foot to get there. So imagine what it took for them back in the day to do that. But has always been, this area has been a playground for people. And even inland, where we're going to focus with Lily today, lots to do there as well in terms of visiting and tourism. I've snow skied for Valentine's Day weekend, like February. You can go skiing in the northern Apennines here in this area in Matese. But one of the most important things, I was like, how do we narrow in on this area and what really defines kind of the history of it? And I had to go with Vesuvius and Pompeii. And what I wanted to show you with this picture here of Mount Vesuvius, which is still an active volcano, imagine the sides of the volcano going up to form a perfect peak where it's missing. Just fill in that gap. That is what exploded in 79 AD. That entire top of that volcano exploded and covered the entire area with ash and lava and just meters and meters thick, which is a defining characteristic of the soils throughout the region, is that you have these different soils, but they're covered in ash from Mount Vesuvius, which is actually still an active volcano. And right now there's a hardened cap over the crater. So it's really just a matter of time again before that explodes. We'll ask Lily how she feels about that, living in that area. It's a ticking time bomb. But one of the most important things, obviously, so when we look at towns like Pompeii, and that's not the only ruin that you can visit there. There were other towns. Stabia is known for the really extravagant Roman emperor, the noble villas at the time. But a couple interesting things in terms of the wine history that we'll focus on. So quickly, there's a bug called phylloxera that in the late 1800s and early 1900s was brought over from the United States, and it killed almost every vine in Europe. And since then, what they've had to do is go back and replant vines onto American rootstock, because American rootstock is not affected by that bug. That's the word. Anyway, so one of the cool things about Campania and the fact that it's covered in this layer of ash and volcanic material is that those provided really unique loose soils, and phylloxera was not able to destroy the vines there. So there are lots of indigenous grapes. There are about 100 native grapes to the area, which is quite unique. And there's some really old vines. Lily has an amazing picture, some old vines on their property that are still producing grapes at this time. But one thing that's really cool, if you really want to go down a rabbit hole this afternoon, graffiti is something I could talk about for a while, but I think it's so interesting. There's graffiti in Pompeii that was perfectly preserved. A lot of it being like the first Yelp reviews. So you'd be standing outside of a shop and you can see like, food's good here, not good, you know, this food gave me indigestion. I mean, truly, there's graffiti that says like, Sally was here, ate the pasta, no good, walk away. So it's super interesting. But some of the things we also see there in terms of graffiti are like wine prices or the history of the vines in that area and things like that. Pliny the Elder, who was a historian for that time, actually died in the eruption in Pompeii. And I think his nephew was in that area as well and saw it happen, maybe from Ischia. Anyway, super interesting. I could talk about Pompeii forever, but we won't. So looking at the different wine regions in Campania, all of these different regions down the coastline, making some really unique wines. There are one of the cool reds, Piedi Rosso, which Campania produces mostly red, but is also known for amazing whites, like ones we'll have today. Piedi Rosso comes from, especially this area is very good, but it gets its name, red feet, because the stem of the grape, it turns red and it looks like a red pigeon's foot. So they call it Piedi Rosso. But really, I think probably more of the reputable wines, the most of the DOCs, DOCGs, does come from the inland, hillier areas, not so much the dramatic coastlines. Like even the vineyards down here along the Amalfi Coast have these very, very steep terraced vines. But in here we have kind of the more classical looking vineyards and some really great quality. So on that note, that's where I'll try to stop and let Lily talk more about the winery and the wine. So I will give it over to you.
So thank you very much. You made really a perfect presentation of the region, and it's it's really, I mean, it's really interesting because having this kind of large view, it's better for me in this way to explain you where exactly we are. So the Avellino province is completely surrounded by mountains, okay? And we didn't have any influence from the seaside, even if we're only 30 minutes from the seaside. So you said, I live in Salerno, and it takes me like 35 minutes to get to the winery. But over there, we have a completely different weather. We have snow during winter time, and summertime is short. We don't have such a hot temperature like we're having now. And the most important thing is that we have 1,200 millimeters of rain per year. That it's a lot. It's the most rainy wine region in all Italy. That's why it's so green, okay? Then another very important thing that you actually mentioned is that we have the volcanic soil. So we have the influence of the Vesuvio and the influence of the Vulture, that is a death volcano in Basilicata. So since we have this very volcanic soil, sandy soil, we still have old vines, vineyards that are more than 100 years old that survived the phylloxera because the insect of the phylloxera was not able to reach the roots because it was too sandy, okay? And because of this very special microclimate, because of the soils and everything like this, and because we still have the very, how can I say, we have tradition in the training of the vines for sure, and we always try to respect the nature. So the main difference is that what happened in other regions they decided to take off all the other cultivation to plant more vines, we kept you know, all the different cultivation we had. And in fact, it's a mix of hazelnuts, chestnuts, fruit trees, olive trees, and vineyards for sure. So the territory in this way is very, very, very fragmented. Think that we work on more than 400 hectares, and they're divided in 879 plots. So 879 small vineyards spread all over. Different exposure to the sun, different soils, different altitudes. So we can really get different characteristics of the grapes according to where the vineyards are located. And even if Feudi is a very big winery, because we actually produce 4 million bottles per year, we try to keep all the different characteristics of the single vineyards. So the philosophy is actually a balance between tradition and innovation. We try to be as much, we try to care about, the nature and all the biodiversity of the territory, but at the same time, we try to produce a large number of bottles, always keep the quality high. So maybe that's why you over there have some of our bottles, And I think that maybe the best way to show you, or actually to let you understand what exactly we are, is to show you the video. So I try to do my best to share this video on, if I'm able to do, yes, on YouTube. So let's do this and tell me if you're able to see.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Is it playing for you yet, Lily?
Guido. Do you see all the vineyards?
I'm not seeing it. I'm just.
You can see it?
No, just a black.
It's playing right now.
No, I can see the YouTube page, but no video. Oh, maybe try again. Maybe pull it back to the start and try one more time.
I play. See it?
No, I don't. Does anyone else in the chat? Is anyone seeing it?
No.
No, Pare. So bad. Let me do like. Oh.
Let me see if
you see me.
Share.
I stopped share because I don't know why you don't see it.
Let me see if I can find it real quick. Let me see if I can play this, and you tell me if.
Okay.
1 second. Okay, let me go back. Where did everybody go? Are you all there?
We're here.
Oh,
yeah,
here.
I am.
I have lost everything. Oh, I found it. Oh my God, I was gonna start sweating, you guys. Okay, let me try this again and see if I can show you this video. Oy, oy.
I don't know if you're able to share the screen, maybe.
Here, I think I've got it.
Yes.
Got it? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me play this. Beautiful. I love that you can see the pergola trained vine.
Right. These are actually the oldest vineyard we have. They're located in Taurasi area, where we grow the Aglianico grapes. And we're talking about 100, 150 years old vineyards, still like pergola. We call it actually tennecchia. It's a dialect term. And it's still hand-picked, but actually I can tell that everything is unpicked, everything is unpruned, because in this way we're able to make a selection directly on the plant. And as soon as we got the grapes, you know, in the vineyards, we balance it with the technology. We have a very high-tech winery, I can tell. It's really big, and at the same time, you know, we try, as I said, you know, to keep all the different plots separately from each other. So in the fermentation area, we have more than 400 stainless steel tanks of different sizes. And where we make the fermentation, that we have a beautiful, a beautiful cellar, aging room, where we age only the reds, because the whites are actually kept only in the stainless steel tanks. And the bottling line is very, very high tech, and everything is made in the same structure, I mean, the same winery. We got the grapes and the exit as bottles. So 4 million bottles all produced there.
And I can't believe you hand-pick 4 million bottles. I mean, if you need...
But you know what? The problem is that it's almost impossible to use machines there, because the vineyards are very, very small, you know, and they're fragmented. So they're really spread all over. And in this way, you know, having the hand of the farmers and their experience, actually, it's very, very important, because they really are able to make a selection directly on the plant. Yeah. And think that we are about like 200, 300 employees, and the biggest investment is done into the vines. And we try always to learn by the old people how they manage it. Right. Most of the, I mean, we own most of the vineyards, but we also have lots of suppliers, okay, that work only for us. But it's crazy, because there are lots of old people, so they really try to, you know, to be part of the family. It's beautiful, really. The harvest time is one of the most amazing time of the year, I can tell.
Well, so on that note, I mean, it's important for people to know that you can go visit there. They have an amazing tasting room, a Michelin star restaurant, right? A beautiful place where you can stay, and it's really not that far from Positano, where I love to send you, my people, there. So it's easy to do, kind of combine some of these places and go even for just a day to do a lunch and a wine tasting.
Absolutely. We have a Michelin star restaurant. It has the Michelin star since 2009, and it's just been completely renewed. It's beautiful. We have a beautiful tasting room, and you know, I will be glad to have you and guide you at the discovery of the winery. Really, it's as I said, 30 minutes far from Salerno. It's about 1 hour far from the 1.5 hour far from the Amalfi Coast, 50 minutes far from Naples. So, and if you need like a private driver, we have it. So
wonderful. Well, if
you
my flight is still on,
you can stay safe with us, because we have, you know, huge areas, and you can book a private tour. So really can't wait to start it.
I'll be there in September if they let me. So
oh, sure,
I will. I have a flight.
Me too.
Okay, so tell us, let's go through some of the wines, because everybody's thirsty, but let's start maybe with Falanghina. So we've picked really, I think, so I have 4 wines in front of me. We have 3. Not everybody at home may have all of those. I don't know, but we're going to focus on Falanghina, which is native local grape. These are all actually native local grapes. So they're very specific to the area. So we're going to do Falanghina, Greco di Tufo, which is
And
my personal favorite.
sure.
Mention Fiano di Avellino because we have
Yes.
in it, even if we don't have it at home. I do. And then we have the Aglianico, which is the native red grape, particular from there, and is kind of known to some as the Barolo of the South. So I know a few people who will be really excited to learn about that mish.
So,
Okay, so tell us about Falanghina.
Okay, Falanghina, first of all, is produced in Benevento area. That is the province that is really like besides the Avellino province. It's the largest DOC actually. And it's completely different from Irpinia over there because the vineyards are flat and it's maybe the easiest grape to manage. It's really vigorous and you can really produce, with no problems and is not so delicate in terms of the training as Fiano or Greco, for example. I mean, it's very fresh, very full of flowers, and it's really pleasant. I mean, it's a wine that you can drink like there's no tomorrow. We generally describe it this way, I can tell. And it's perfect for, it's perfect for aperitif if you're sitting on the terrace. It's really an everyday wine. Okay, so it's
this is one. When I first started telling people about the wine tastings, one I was most excited to share with people is Falanghina. To me, if you can find this wine, a chilled wine in the summertime, I mean, it's anytime's great, but summertime, a chilled Falanghina with lunch or something is absolutely fantastic. You can't go wrong.
No, absolutely. It's really nice. It's perfect to pair with even really easy things. You don't have to prepare a very important thing. I have to tell you this. We generally, talking about like my family, my family tradition, we generally don't cook with the Falanghina because it's too aromatic. It's the most aromatic grape, even if it's not, I'm a sommelier and I know you are, and it's not the perfect term to describe it. But now that we compare the Falanghina to the others, you can tell that the others are drier and this one is very, is very aromatic. Mm-hmm. So that's why, it's most for aperitif used.
So you're saying like if you have a pasta dish and you're cooking like, maybe some vongole, like pasta.
Right. You generally don't use it for it. Yeah.
Because it's a little too much.
Too much. Right.
So what are some of the typical flavors and things that people taste? And feel free to chat in if you're tasting this and want to share what you're tasting or smelling.
But for sure, like white flower, like I don't know, is jasmine, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is generally because every time I smell it, I think about the green wall of the winery. Okay, so it's really like this. Then, it's some like exotic fruit. Mm-hmm. Like not so mature pineapple, maybe.
I think for mine, the one that I'm drinking, pear is probably the first thing I would say, but then definitely some pineapple too.
Pineapple, right.
Mm-hmm. But mostly pear. But yeah, it's just so easy to drink. And it has a really good, mine that I have is a really good salinity. It kind of has this like aspect to it. It really makes you want to just keep drinking more because your mouth is prickly and it's going, okay, give me some more.
So as I said, like there's really no tomorrow. That's the idea.
I love it. Falanghina, like there's no tomorrow. You guys are gonna make t-shirts.
We like this one. Okay, I'm happy you like it. So another very important thing that I didn't tell you is that with the Falanghina, we also make a sparkling wine.
Interesting.
And actually, the sparkling Falanghina is really the transcription of the still wine with bubbles, and it's really crazy. It's empowered the aromas, these fruits, this very beautiful flowers, very light. I mean, really light white flowers, and maybe pear. That's Now I can tell you. And in the mouth, it's a bit salty, not so much, not like the Greco that we're gonna taste. And it's the most important thing of our white grapes is the acidity. Acidity is the most important thing. That's why we keep only in the stainless steel tanks. Okay, we need to keep the acidity, we need to keep the minerality and the freshness, because with the help, let's say, of the wood, it will definitely cover it. Mm-hmm. And we really need to keep the crispy flavor.
The fruitiness,
the fruitiness, yeah.
The vivacity. The wood adds a lot of different components to the wine. Obviously, it can be buttery, toasty. You don't want to do that with every wine. That's not the character of every grape. Like, this type of grape really just needs to be cold and fresh and just really lively. So, and like you said, so Falanghina, when you look at the map, it comes from kind of a bigger area and it's easier to grow, which is totally different from Greco di Tufo.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about Greco, my one true love.
But I can tell you that Greco di Tufo is now becoming maybe our favorite wine. We're studying a lot.
Not to me, no.
Yeah. And then you need to. The very crazy thing is that everybody loves Falanghina, and that's for sure. You can't go wrong, as you said. With the Greco, it's not easy. First of all, because it's a very difficult grape to grow. Think that the azins are very, very small, and when they mature, they get brown. They get a brown color. So when you make the fermentation, you get a very strange color, very strange yellow. So it's very difficult to get this beautiful bright yellow. And on the other side, it's the only one that it's able to age like a red. In fact, the people of the area always say that the Greco di Tufo is red dressed as a white.
Oh, really? That's funny.
In terms of structure, in terms of longevity, for sure, in terms of color, as I said. So,
and it comes from a really small area compared to
we can produce only in 8 villages of the Avellino province. Is the smallest DOCG. What I didn't say that is very important. So I told you that the area in Irpinia is very fragmented, but think that the DOCGs that are Fiano di Avellino, Greco di Tufo, and Taurasi don't actually mix. You don't see. You have a village that, even if is beside the other, is the village that is dedicated to the Greco or to the Fiano, okay?
There is a lot of times villages or territory overlap. And so one will make Greco di Tufo, also Aglianico. That's not the case here. They're very separate and very site specific to these different grapes.
Yeah, correct.
Very
and small ones for sure. And the main characteristic of the Greco di Tufo is actually the Tufo soil, that it's a chalky soil.
It's very porous and
Right. And that's why it acquires minerality and freshness that is definitely, and more acidity. The acidity is definitely higher than the Fiano and the Falanghina. Okay, so it's really, I don't know which kind of vintage you have, but I found a 2017, so maybe someone has the same that I have.
I also have a 17. I think some people have 18.
I have both because I have the 18 as well. So,
Everything.
but you know what? The fact is that that's why I am just asking the vintage, because the Greco has a beautiful evolution in the bottles. Okay, the color, I don't know if you know this, but it's definitely darker than the Falanghina, and that is given by the for sure the color of the skin, the color of the grape, that is completely different, and it's definitely more elegant, and it's absolutely well structured. Nice to taste 2017 in 2020, yes, but I can tell you that in like 2 years ago, during Venitali, the wine fair in Verona, I've tasted from a very, 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 very small winery, a Greco di Tufo 2008. And trust me, it was amazing, really amazing. The evolution that this kind of grape has in the bottle, even if it's aged only in the stainless steel tanks, it's crazy, really. It's, you can keep it, no problems, okay?
2008, it was mostly aged in the bottle, you think? More than, like, straight from stainless steel to the bottle, not even in. So I was wondering too, I mean, this does have a more golden color, you were saying, because of the skins. How do you leave it on the skins for, no, really? So the color is just coming naturally from the skins. I think people know this, but you can make white wine from red grapes. You just press the juice and you separate the skins immediately, so it doesn't take on any of that color. So with white grapes, generally you're not leaving the skins on for long. You can, some people do, depending on, you know, if it's a different type of grape. But that I was curious because a lot of the color and structure and tannin can sometimes come from the seeds and the skins. So that's interesting that you don't, though, and it still has kind of that deeper color and the more structure.
Right. It's really, and I tell you this, we did, like, we made a new wine. We made a new wine that is made of Greco di Tufo. The name is Goleto. It's a very, very special wine. And we made this experiment, fermented in the tanks, but aged 80% in the 80% in clay,
in terracotta.
Yeah, right. And then the rest in the barrels.
So that's an interesting, we were talking on our last call with Umbria about wines that are fermented and aged in terracotta. And it's this movement towards everyone wants to be natural and go back to the origin of the wines from the areas. And, you know, we're talking about a system that was used by natives a long time to ferment and age in terracotta. So there's a shift back to that. Could be good, could be bad. So it's a kind of risky, no?
That's why we never stop experimenting.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, we made this very small experiment, you know, the bottles are like limited edition, and we're still practicing on this. And we had these amphore of terracotta, we had like 4, because we own a winery in Puglia that is completely biodynamic. So, you know, and we started, you know, using this with the Greco, because, as I said, you know, is the one that ages better, and the result is really, really, really amazing. So Greco has, you know, has a power, that's for sure. We also use sparkling with the Greco, that it's definitely something like that you can definitely compare to the champagne, because it ages perfectly even on lees. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's you can tell. I mean, if you taste it and you drink it and you smell it, you feel the structure. You can tell that it's completely different from the lightness of the Falanghina. Okay. So in the, you feel more, you smell more herbs, more like balsamic herbs, and less flowers. The fruits is definitely like, sometimes you smell lime, for example. So beautiful acidity, really.
What to you, cheers everybody. First of all, let's take a moment to cheers. Thanks for joining us today. This is fun. Hi, Jim and Eva. Hi, everybody. Ted, Kate, Laura. Hi. So Lily, what would you say is your, like, what would you pair this with? The best dish to pair this with? She's like, no.
Shrimp. Oh my gosh. Like the red shrimp from the like Cilento coast, that is actually on the other side of Salerno. Mm-hmm. And even like raw fish, for example, it's perfect. And another amazing pairing is buffalo mozzarella cheese, because you have, you know, the crispy flavor. You know, the Greco is it's a three-dimensional, like the Aglianico, for example. So if you have the mozzarella, you know, it would definitely clean your mouth, and it's the perfect balance.
So I think one of the reasons this wine is so, I love it so much, are because of memories I have, not only from the Amalfi Coast, but even in Rome. We would get a good bottle of Greco and just for a summer day, spend, you know, 5 hours at lunch, plastic chairs, but where they just throw grilled seafood down, one thing after another, and you just keep ordering bottles of this. And those were my favorite days ever. But yeah, just the crustaceans and shrimp and fresh fish, it's fantastic. So.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking about what I would have or cook with this, you know, just, and since I'm not a chef, you can tell because I was talking about mozzarella cheese that you need actually just to buy. So that's it.
It's simple though, it's simple. And they're both from there. I mean, that's another thing too. Yeah. You want to know what to pair wine with? Well, where is it from? And look what they make around there. What are the specialties of that area? That's always what you pair it with.
Absolutely.
Can't go wrong with that. So
absolutely. Before
we go to the red, just tell us a tiny bit about Fiano di Avellino, because though we don't have it at home, I do. It's one of the noble grapes of Italy. It's one of the noble whites of not only Campania, but all of Italy. So it's definitely worth mentioning while we're visiting you.
Absolutely. So Greco di Tufo has a Greek origin, and Fiano and Falanghina have actually Latin origin. So they're different for sure. It's actually the Fiano di Avellino DOCG has the largest area of production, because it includes 24 villages of the Avellino province, and Feudi di San Gregorio is located in Sorbo Serpico, that is actually one of the village that it's included in the DOCG area. So we are completely surrounded by Fiano di Avellino vineyards. Since it's a very large area, you have different kinds of soils for sure. Volcanic and clay, and sometimes it's a bit like rocky, for example. So you can get really different characteristics according to where the vineyards are located, just to tell you. So the vineyards that are around the winery in Sorbo Serpico area, that is actually one of the last village before the Salerno province, so it's definitely Southern, they're definitely more like elegant and smooth, and you can get there maybe sometimes a late harvest. They're a bit more complex. Then there is another area that it's Lapio. I don't know if you have noticed, but it's a bit higher. It's a bit in the north, and it's completely different. It's definitely more mineral. Okay, so think that we produce the Fiano di Avellino, the one that you can definitely have in the States, the classic line, with a mix of different plots, all around the winery, and it's very smooth. It's very elegant, it's very persistent, and it's very rich. We describe sometimes as a female wine. It's definitely completely different from the Greco, because the Greco is very strong, is very direct, and the Fiano is definitely smoother in a way.
I didn't think about it that way, but that's why I love the Greco.
That's the
the Fiano is great. So this one I have is definitely a little more full-bodied than the other ones. It fills the mouth a little bit more, and it has like this almondy characteristic to it.
Right. That's one of the most important characteristic of it. And sometimes when it's in specific vintages, the Fiano di Avellino has a beautiful note that is the hazelnuts. Because we are full of hazelnuts all around, Irpinia. And especially when you have a late harvest or a very hot season, you can really get the mature hazelnut, really.
I love that. You were talking about sharecropping, and it's so interesting to me. I think people forget Italy as a country is only 150 years old. It's technically younger than the United States. Sharecropping and this idea that mixed cultivation was really common up until the 50s, the 60s. So you would have vines, hazelnut, lemon trees, like all mixed together. And that really only ended, within the last 50, 60, 70 years. So there's a really big tradition of that still. And then I wanted to clarify too, you're saying Irpinia, which we mentioned, but it's so cool to me. So the area of Avellino, historically called Irpinia. And I love, if everyone goes after this to Feudi's website, it says we are not in Campania, we are in Irpinia,
right?
Historic land of that area with the historic name. So I just think that's really cool. So if people can get their hands on a Fiano, that will even kind of elevates the game a little bit. If you're having like a nice dinner or making some, shrimp, crab, lobster, something like that, definitely would go well with those things.
Sure, even with the risotto, for example, is really good. Some risotto as well. They're good. Okay, I need to open the Aglianico, right?
Yes, let's go to the red, the Aglianico.
Okay, Aglianico is one of the. Oh, you have the Aglianico da Re. That's the selection.
Yeah.
You know what? I tell you something about this vineyard. So the selection means that we selected an area of production when we think we get the best expression of the grapes, of the specific grapes. And the Darre comes from one specific vineyard that it's actually 3 minutes walking from the old vines.
Will you show people that picture of the old vines? Is that easy for you?
I try to do my best.
Okay. If it doesn't work, we can forget it and they can go on your website and look later. But they're so cool. And so
I try.
Okay.
I will do my best. Just 1 second, and I really.
While you're figuring that out, so this is the one that's kind of referred to as the Barolo of the South.
Yes, correct.
Not delicate. It's refined, but packs like a lot of stuff in there. Really amazing structured wine. To me, the one that I have, so I mean, I spent a little bit more money on my wine studies, and I got the selective vineyard for myself. But it's just amazing, like beautiful.
You see something?
Yes, it worked. It worked.
Okay, so just 1 second that I show you. Okay, look at this. This is Irpinia during the winter time. And here you have.
Oh, look at that. I mean, are you kidding me? Did she live in there? What is her story?
Yeah, actually, she's Signora Gigia, and she was the owner of the vineyard, and we acquired later. And this is actually the oldest plant we have there.
How old is it?
You can see that are actually like 3 meters high, more than 40 meters long, and it's crazy because they used to train the vines in this way, because since they have very small plots, they needed to cultivate something else on the soil.
That makes
sense. That's why, you know, they used to develop the grapes up in order to have enough space to cultivate potatoes, broccoli, whatever they needed.
Sure, that makes sense. How old is this vine?
More than 100 years old.
Wow. How old is the woman?
But actually, she's not with us anymore. And
I'm sorry.
She left maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Don't remember, but yeah.
Well, it's an amazing image, and thank you for sharing it. I think it's
absolutely. Yeah. Since I'm here, I can show you something of maybe the restaurant.
Yes, and do you have any?
Here we go. This is the tasting room.
Heck yeah! It's beautiful.
You can see it.
Yes, it's beautiful.
And that's the restaurant.
Amazing.
The Michelin star, right? The tasting room is crazy. It's beautiful, and yeah, we have social table here.
Beautiful.
And, yeah. So we're gonna open. Finally, we're gonna reopen the restaurant. Maybe I don't know. Maybe in the end of the next week. Finally, yeah. And on Monday, we're gonna open the wine shop to the public. So step by step.
Yeah. Well, we wish you luck. So people know they are opening this summer, but they're really trying to attract. I think the tourism industry in Italy right now is really focused on Italians and getting people out of their homes and into their own backyards and visiting places near them, taking advantage of what's there that maybe they don't always. So that's their hope for the rest of the year, is to get the Italian tourism going again.
Yeah.
We'll stay afloat. Let's go back real quick and talk a little bit just about the flavors and what we're smelling in the Aglianico typically. And then if you have any questions or want to say anything, they absolutely can.
So the Aglianico is definitely not easy to understand. It's a wine that needs time. It's a wine that needs time for the grapes, and in fact is harvested then generally in the end of October, the first days of November is the latest grape picked in all Italy. Wow. Okay. And it's very difficult to manage because it's difficult to destamp. So we have a very high-tech destamper in the winery that it's actually able to like take all the azins in a mechanical way for sure. And the fermentation for all our wines is done into the stainless steel tanks, but most of the Aglianico goes into the barrels because it has, you know, the most beautiful evolution and it needs time. That's it.
French oak, or do you use the big Slovenian tone?
We have both. We have both. We have barrels, we have barriques of French oak. We use about 14 different coopers. And we also have big barrels of Slavonian oak. 5,000 liters and 2,000 liters. That's it.
A lot of people, we haven't really talked about this yet in our group, the fact that I think people equate the use of French oak barrels, the 500-liter ones, to the most important wines. That's not always true. Think about Aglianico, Brunello di Montalcino. Historically, they're aged in the large, round tonneau, which are what, 2,000 liters?
But actually, the tonneau are, I think, 500. And then the big, we call it botti grandi, like more than from 2,000 to like 15,000 liters. It depends on the shape, actually. The biggest for us are 5,000 liters.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the ones I'm thinking of in Montalcino area are like the 2,000-liter tonneau.
Yeah.
They're not, it doesn't, they basically depend on the grape that you're working with and what your goal is for that wine. People put the wine in small French oak barrels if they want it to have more impact.
Correct.
Less surface area or more surface area to the wine, so it's impacting it more. If you don't need that for the grape and you don't want all that wood and the extra tannin and everything that's going into it, then you use a larger barrel so it has a smaller impact or lesser impact overall on the wine that's in there. So it doesn't, I think people equate like fanciness and equality or quality with smaller barrels, but that's not true. I mean, it's not a rule. But
no, I think that, you know, the crazy thing that we do at the winery, and this is, you know, the manager of the production is Pierpaolo Sirca, that it's one of the biggest name of the, you know, agronomy word in Italy. And this is very important because we don't have an enologist, we have an agronomist and a winery. So it takes care of the vineyards and it takes care of the grapes from the vineyards to the bottles. Because for us, the most important thing is actually the territory. And even if we need to produce, for example, a Taurasi, that is the DOCG, then it needs to be aged in the wooden barrels for, you know, at least 1 year, and it's released on market after 5 years. He actually makes different, you know, different parcels, okay? It ages in different barrels, and after that, after tasting them, he decides what to blend. So it could be definitely a mix of small and big barrels, because you need to find the balance. That with the Aglianico is absolutely not easy, because, as you said, if you use too much French oak, it will cover the flavor in a way, or it will add too much. And the Aglianico is really, really powerful. So every vintage is different, and you need to find a balance. That's it. Otherwise, it would be really too much, and you need to maybe forget your bottle of Taurasi in the cellar for like decades before you're able to drink it. So
yes, which is hard to do. It just stares at you, and you want to drink it. But yeah, some of these for sure, you want to give them a little bit more time.
Yeah. So the main characteristic of the Aglianico in terms of flavors is for sure the balsamic notes, that, you know, that's the acidity for sure. Sometimes you find the lavender that is really fresh in the end, but you also have leather, tobacco, and mature red fruits like cherries, for example. And then for sure it depends on the vintage, and depends even on the aging process of it. So I'm having a rubrato right now.
I think most people at home have the rubrato too.
Yeah, and the rubrato is actually our sort of entry level in a way. It's 100% Aglianico from our vineyards, and it's the youngest Aglianico we actually produce. It's I think maybe the most popular in Campania. I think, and it's an everyday wine. that you can definitely pair with steak, with, I don't know, maybe Parmigiana. I think I'm getting hungry right now. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Parmigiana or pizza, for example, it's really good with this. And it tastes really, really, really well.
I wanted to just mention to people, so I have what you call like the selective vineyard.
Right.
Which is a 2015. It has really deep flavors of like the dark cherry and leather and tobacco and things like that. And I wasn't holding out on you all. I already did order my mixed case from my wine shop in Italy that I've told you all about. So as you go through, this one that's not as easy to find in the United States. I think there are fewer bottles of it available as well. But it is one that if people would like to do the mixed orders at the end of this, I can help you get like this kind of bottle straight from Italy. From either Feudi or using my wine shop in Florence where I can mix the different wines. But this is a fantastic bottle. And I can't remember off the top of my head like how much this one was compared to the other, but I can tell you it wasn't crazy. It doesn't have Barolo prices, even though it's called the Barolo of the South.
No, actually, later Celia will provide you all information you need, really. And talking about the prices, think that, I mean, in our wine shop at the winery, we sell the Rubrato that could be around less than 10 euro, and the Aglianico da Re that it's about, I think, 12.50 or something like this. So the price is not so different, but they're different in the taste. You know, because the Aglianico da Re is aged a bit more in the barrels. It's a selection, comes from a single vineyard that is not so far from the old vines, and it really affects a lot, you know, the final result. So.
It's amazing. It's a really lovely bottle. I love that. I just have a glass. I used my little corgi.
Oh, wow, I love it.
Yeah, so I'm going to save this more for a meal because I really love this one. I'm not going to lie. Does anyone have any questions or anything? Lily was also saying you have hospitality rooms, right? You have a few rooms and suites that people can also stay in. Obviously, very, very nice. So
absolutely. It's we have a sort of country house that it's 2 minutes walking far from the winery. It has like 5 rooms. We have a sort of like B&B service, but we have a restaurant. So it's absolutely available for book when we will be possible. And we're planning actually to build a new sort of country house with more rooms. And we're actually increasing and you know, our hospitality.
Wow, that's great. And it is wonderful too, because it's truly so easy to get there from Naples.
Absolutely, yes.
People want to go down and maybe they don't want to go all the way up to Tuscany and have that, you know, maybe they want to do Rome and the Amalfi Coast and not necessarily go all the way north. They can have that experience of staying in a country house in the hills among the vines and doing that for a few nights, all in that little area as well. So it's really easy.
We are in, you know, completely surrounded by green. You know, Irpinia is a really green area. So and we're not far, as I said, we're not far from the coast. It's a very beautiful area. We have our restaurant, but we also are surrounded by very traditional restaurant that you know, you have to taste something made by them, and then we are also able, you know, to provide like private drivers, and we can also show you the old vines. Really, it's an experience for sure. It's really an experience.
Well, I will be there again soon, hopefully this fall, but if not, definitely again with Jane, who we don't see on here, but she and I were to be there together for a week, 2 weeks now. Anyway, does anyone have any questions for Lily or about the wines or the area before we kind of let her go? It's getting pretty late for her, and she's hungry now, which is a problem.
I'm feeling sort of locked down, so nothing to do, and it's a pleasure for me to share this night with you, really.
It's been really fun. Well, if nothing else, definitely a cheers. I would like to know of the wines that people do have at home, which one they like the best, but
yeah, sure. I want to know it.
Yeah. So thank you for being here. Salute, chin chin.
I loved the Greco. Thank you. And also, Lily, I was wondering, I wasn't sure on the pronunciation. Did you say you live in Sereno? Or Sally, I sent you some.
Salerno.
Sorry, is that the same place that I sent you?
Sorrento is actually a village on the Sorrento Peninsula. Yes, Salerno, that's the, and Salerno is one of the, actually, the main town, not far from the, actually on the Amalfi Coast, more or less. It's not big as Naples. It's a southern Naples, actually.
Okay, that's where my great-grandfather immigrated from, so.
Really?
Yes.
Great. Wow. Yeah, it's a beautiful town. It's beautiful, beautiful town, really.
It is amazing. When I think of the Amalfi Coast, it goes, so I tell people from start to finish, it's Sorrento, Positano, Amalfi, Salerno, più o meno.
More or less.
So let's see. We love the Greco di Tufo. We want a window seat at the restaurant. It's a tie between the Greco and Falanghina.
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys have a Tarazi Reserva 2012 for later. Good call.
Oh, love it. It's my favorite, the Taurasi Reserva. I can tell.
That's exciting. I do love it. This 2015, I'm going to have to get myself a few more of those. Well, wonderful. Lily, I don't want to keep you. It's been a pleasure. I hope we can do this again.
Sure. No problem.
Bothering you. This was really fun. But we'll say thank you. I'll let you go and
okay.
Ci sentiamo domani magari.
Va bene. Grazie mille. Grazie mille a tutti.
Thank you. Thank you so
Ciao.
much. Cheers.
Ciao. Cheers. Cheers.
And if anyone else wants to stay on, I will introduce in advance. I'm going to stop recording actually before I forget to do that.